John Durham is Connecticut's top federal prosecutor. He was appointed by the Trump administration, a 35-year veteran of the U.S. justice system. He's been the lead prosecutor in cases involving organized crime, public corruption, and torture.
Joining us this morning, Harry Littman. He's a legal affairs columnist for the LA Times, a constitutional law professor, and a former U.S. attorney himself. Welcome, Mr. Littman. Great to have you here with us.
Thank you. Good to be here. Hello, Connecticut.
Oh, thank you. Can you begin by explaining what is John Durham's investigative role? How's that different from his job as U.S. attorney?
Sure. So his basic day job, and it's a big job, is, as Kevin said, the chief federal law enforcement officer in Connecticut. There are 93 of them across the country. He's the guy for Connecticut. So he oversees everything from organized crime, down to smaller federal crimes. In addition, the Attorney General of the United States, Bill Barr, appointed him, gave him an extra job to investigate any possible improprieties in the FBI and Department of Justice's investigation in 2016 of the Trump campaign and its alleged ties to Russia. So he's supposed to forage there, leave no stone unturned, and see whether anybody did anything wrong, including anything criminally wrong.
Why was his appointment kept secret? It was made in October, and we've just recently found out about it. That seems unusual.
That's right. And typically, the regulation under which he was appointed provides for immediate notification of Congress. But of course, Congress leaks like a sieve, as everyone knows, and there is a provision for keeping it under wraps. Bill Barr properly, I think, invoked that provision because we were very near the election and he wanted to avoid a kind of October surprise. So he waited until we were on the other side of it.
So the Senate Intelligence Committee came out with an extensive bipartisan report on these Russian contacts with the 2016 Trump campaign. Hasn't this ground been tilled many times in the last 4 years?
I mean, to say the least. Also, the Inspector General, the Senate, as you say, was several thousand pages. There's been all kinds of activity on Capitol Hill, including on the House side. It's befuddling now, especially because it's very hard to see what could have been criminal here as opposed to sloppy. But it is this obsession of the president's. Remember the Ukraine call that resulted in his impeachment? The very first thing he said was how bad the Mueller probe is. It's an itch he can't seem to scratch enough to try to undo the 2016 probe. And for his part, the Attorney General seems to suspect something was amiss. But man, have they looked hard, including Durham himself. He was appointed, Kevin, to this job, and we can talk about the consequences of that. But he'd already been doing the very investigation for a year. So this is very, very well-plowed territory.
Normally, as you know, when a new president of a different party comes in, a new U.S. attorney is appointed. Is that presumably going to happen soon?
I don't think so for John Durham. It's normal, but not invariable. For instance, Rod Rosenstein, who was the deputy, he was a holdover from the Obama administration and a Republican. But even if, this is the key point, even if somehow he were sacked and said, I'm sorry, you're no longer U.S. attorney for Joe Biden, this position and this assignment would remain unless other steps were taken. So it doesn't affect this mission that he's been given as of October.
A very well-known federal prosecutor in Connecticut, Nora Dannehy, who helped bring down former Governor John Rowland, she was part of this team with John Durham until earlier this fall, when it turned out she had resigned. What do you think that tells us about what's happened so far in this investigation?
I mean, it's a great question. She's been very buttoned down and very professional, not responding to questions. But the assumption certainly seemed at the time that John Durham was facing a lot of pressure from Washington, from Bill Barr, was really being pushed to find things that weren't there and possibly being pushed to take action in advance of the election, which would have been, I think it's fair to say, improper. So it seemed to have been a principled resignation, and she wasn't just involved, she was really Durham's number 2 person on the investigation. Yes. So it's something that really seemed to indicate something was awry and possibly politicized in the investigation. We won't know for a while. She's just kept her counsel since leaving.
She was the same way when she and John Durham worked together investigating John Rowland. Thank you very much, Professor Litman. That's it for this edition of Face the State. Coming up, CBS Sunday Morning with Jane Paul.
Join us next Sunday when we'll invite more guests to Face the State.